Hello, everyone. In the book we're going to be talking about today is going to take us on a road trip. A road trip from hell, both literally and figuratively. It involves a lot of things. We've got a demon possession. We've got an exorcist unlike anything you've seen before. And also a biker gang hell-bent on revenge. Do you think it's going to be bloody? Oh, yes, it is. We're going to talk about all that right now. All right, so the book we're going to be talking about today is called A Black and Endless Sky by Matthew Lyons. This is a book about a road trip between a brother and a sister. They've been estranged for a while. They have a very complicated relationship because they each have secrets that they've kept from one another. And it all started when the brother decided to up and move from New Mexico and go out to California without telling anybody. He was looking for a change in his life because he had a reputation in his old town of being a bit of a ruffian. When he got angry, he spoke with his fists, and his reputation was one that everybody knew not to mess with him because he was a natural at it. He would just knock you out. Something happened, and he wanted a change in his life. So one day he just ups and moves, doesn't tell his family, and kind of moves away. Well, 12 years later, now he wants to move back home, and his sister, who again, they have a very strained, tumultuous relationship, she agrees to come pick him up, and they can drive from California back to New Mexico again, the way to kind of mend things. However, things do not go as they planned. They make a pit stop in a certain town. They go into a bar. It turns out to be a biker bar. And, well, things get a little bit out of control. A big old bar fight breaks out, and something happens during that fight that makes the biker gang so angry that they're going to follow them. They're going to find this brother and sister, Nell and Jonah. They're going to find them, and there's some payback coming to them for what they did to one of their own inside this bar. But that's not even the worst of it, believe it or not. Because when they leave, Jonah and Nell are kind of like siblings. They bicker and they argue and they accuse one another and they blame each other for things, and they're always at each other's throats, or so it seems. But it's one of those relationships where deep down you know they love each other. You know they're going to have each other's backs no matter what. But like I said, they both have secrets they've kept from each other, and they're in this feeling out process trying to reconcile, and old stuff gets brought up sometimes, and neither of them really wants to talk about some of these things. But after the bar fight, Jonah blames Nell for what happened. He falls asleep. When he wakes up, he's in the middle of the desert. She's gone out of the car. They're not off the side of the road. They're in the middle of the desert. He doesn't know why. Her door's open, keys are in the ignition, but she's just gone. He finds her in a place in the middle of the desert that should not exist. And when he finds her and brings her out of this place, she has changed somehow. And something is different. Something is inside of her. Something evil and something ancient. Now, in the meantime, as I said, they still got this biker gang coming after them. But now, because of this thing, this demon that's inside Nell, now they have drawn the attention of one of the most interesting characters, I think, in this book. She's an exorcist of sorts, but she doesn't really call herself that. She calls herself a sin eater. And she has been passed down through generations of her family. She has passed down to her this ability, this gift, this curse to recognize demons and demonic activity and to exorcise the demons and put them in what she calls the chain. Now, this chain is inside of her. It's not a physical object. However, it's the spiritual equivalent of the containment system in the movie Ghostbusters, if you remember that. This is where all the demons are held. Thousands and thousands and thousands of them that have been captured from her family and passed down generation to generation until now it's her turn. And this chain directs her to where their kind are. They can sense, up to 100 miles away, they can sense demons, they can sense demonic activity, and they pull her. They're anxious to get at their brethren. They're trying to break out of this chain. And so they pull her to where this activity happens, and eventually they pull her right to Nell, because in Nell they see something that's bigger than they are. This sin eater recognizes what's in Nell. She knows it's something big, stronger than most of the demons she deals with. And of course, trying to explain that to Nell and what's going on. Nell thinks she's a crazy person, doesn't want to have nothing to do with it. But this is her mission. This is the sin eater's mission from God. She has to get this demon. And she will do it with or without Nell's permission. And so when you combine all those elements, the biker gang, Nell being possessed, the sin eater, and everything else, it comes to a head in a very bloody, violent, gory way throughout the book. But there are two things I really, really like about this book. And the first one is that this explores the relationship between a brother and sister realistically. And you really kind of feel for those characters. Like I said, you know they argue, they bicker, they fight, they have secrets. But deep down, man, they love each other. And they would have each other's backs. Just things have happened in the past, you know. And things that they don't want to talk about to each other. But maybe they have to get over this hump and to start reconciling again. And while that's being fully explored, we jump into these huge action set pieces that you would expect when these things happen. And like I said, we are going to see knives, we are going to see guns, we are going to see pool cues, we're going to see bottles, we're going to see objects picked up off the ground. We are going to see almost everything imaginable thrown at these people as they tussle with each other, as they fight with each other, and bones are broken, faces are smashed into bloody pulps, there's blood and gore flying everywhere. And because of this thing inside Nell, when it takes over, she loses control. She's not herself. And so you have that added extra element mixed in with all the fighting, this horror type element. And that's the other thing I like is that this book about possession and the sin eater or the exorcist type person, it's not like you've read or seen before. It doesn't portray it like you would think of a possession, where the demon gets inside a person and then all of a sudden they change automatically. Their head starts spinning around. They're speaking in different languages and, you know, puking green blood and everything. It's nothing like that. This is like a slow takeover. And when it wants to, this thing inside Nell fully takes her over and acts in a way that seems kind of protective of Nell in a way. But we know it's evil, and we know it's ancient. And what'll happen is that it slowly starts rotting Nell from the inside. And even though she wants to get rid of it, she doesn't trust the sin eater. She doesn't want anything to do with her. But the sin eater is going to get this thing out of Nell, whether she wants to or not. And that's the other thing about this book. That's why I think the sin eater character is so fantastic, because she's not as typical exorcist. She's covered in tattoos that are like hieroglyphics almost, with lines of protection, tattoos of protection, protecting her from that chain she has inside of her with all of those demons trying to break loose. But also her exorcisms are very, very bloody. Blood must be spilled. They're very bloody and very terrifying. That's how she releases the demons to get them into this chain. And she'll be the first one to admit that not everybody she's trying to exorcise will live through this event. And the thing is, she doesn't care. She really believes this is her calling from God to do this work, and the people it affects doesn't matter. So she might be a bit of a sociopath. At least she comes across that way, but you sense she's doing good. But on the other hand, if she has to manipulate the bad guys, the biker gang, to help her finally get to Nell, so that even against Nell's will, she will do what she needs to do, even if it kills her. This sin eater is capable and very willing to do that just to get to Nell. And it's a rip-roaring ride once all these elements meet up, because you never know what to expect. I mean, there's one thing when two regular people are fighting a gang of bikers, and they might get lucky and win and be able to escape like they did the first time. But then later on, when you got this demonic thing inside Nell that seems to be protecting her in a way because it doesn't want its house to be damaged because it lives inside of her, well, then things become even more terrifying and more horrific. And like I said, it becomes a bloodbath, but it's not just gore, gore, blood, blood, gore. Like I said, that relationship between brother and sister is fully fleshed out. But it makes up like the core of the story, because the stakes are really high, and we never know what's going to happen as we're reading this book. We don't know. It could be anything. We don't know if this is ever going to get out of Nell. We don't know if the sin eater is actually going to get her hands on Nell. We don't know when that biker gang is going to show up and how they're going to deal their retribution for what happened back at the bar. And so it keeps you guessing, and the story moves forward at a very fast pace. But in between all that, in between all the violence and in between all the blood, there's that underlying tale of the brother and the sister trying to reconcile, knowing that at some point they're going to have to give all their dirty little secrets away to each other if they want to survive. This is a very well-told tale, a very great story. I love this book. I love the twist they did on the exorcism and the demon possession. It made it feel like it was fresh and new, and I always appreciate that. So get yourself a copy of A Black and Endless Sky. I'll leave a link below to the Amazon page if you want to purchase it on there. I'll also leave a link below to my Twitter if you want to join me on there. And thank you for taking a little bit of your time and spending it with me. I really appreciate it. And until we meet again, keep reading spooky, my friends.